Can I start now?
Yes, yes. Dr. Binu, you can start.
Okay, I'll start. Can you see my slide?
It's great. You can start.
Okay. Okay. Good evening and sorry for the for being late because I had problems here, network issue. So I spoke to Dr. Snigna also regarding this. Okay, let me start. Good evening, everybody. I'm here today to speak on the topic environment and development, how the energy crisis will impact the transition to clean energy. And I'm here in the platform of IIU, International Internship University, which is a leading virtual education system and global brand confederation, which is the most valuable and trusted worldwide and well reputed in delivering innovative programs. Globally, it is a trusted name for quality training programs and is committed to providing better and virtual education to all young learners of the globe. IIU is metamorphosing the conventional education system by cutting down the additional costs and providing access to more than 1,000 plus courses and internship to their e-learners across the globe with the help of its 1,000 plus global educators. In a short span of time, IIU has spread its wings in 195 countries and 6 continents under the strong leadership of its visionary founder, Mr. Piyush Pandit Sir. IIU is committed to providing better and virtual education to all the young learners of the globe. International Internship University, IIU is building a better and brighter future for all the young learners and is committed to providing better and virtual education to all young learners of the globe. Mr. Piyush Pandit is a hardworking social worker who is passionate and committed to the service of humanity. He is a political figure, social activist, and entrepreneur. His social and political activism is focused on the rural areas and he fights for the right to equality for everyone. He has organized various anti-reservation campaigns at the national and state level. He enhances access to justice for people who need it and has created a team of more than 20 volunteers across different states. He has attended global recognition as head of Swarna Bharat Parivar Trust with a team of social activists that span across more than 50 countries. Piyush is also on a mission to create a change in the experiences of the people that he interacts with every day. He believes that when we all work towards a better life in our various regions, we can create resounding change around the world. Piyush is an empathetic individual who finds creative ways to solve everyday problems, having witnessed the plight of his people on a daily basis. He holds the firm view that humanity deserves the best in all ramification. He is working hard to make a difference in human experience, starting with one person at a time. He firmly believes that if we uplift someone and then another, we improve the experience of the human race. Indeed, he has seen this ripple effect play out in his work. He is not only actively serving others, he is also mentoring other social workers and encouraging social activism and entrepreneurship around the world. Thank you. I am Dr. Binu Thomas. I was ex-dean and ex-registrar of Sikkim Professional University. I have moved out of Sikkim now, and I'll be moving to uh, Delhi, the capital of India, shortly within a week. And then I'll take up a new position there. I am also still an advisor of Sikkim Professional University, also a global educator, academic counselor for Indira Gandhi Open University. Today, my topic is environment and development, how the energy crisis will impact the transition to clean energy. So this is the need of the hour. The topic is very much suitable for all of us. So let me just start about the environment, sustainability, development. Environment, as we know, it is defined here as an entirety of the physical world consisting of world's land masses, oceans, and atmosphere. Development is defined as the process of growth and change in human, social, political, and economic systems. There is a close relationship between the environment and development. The environment is the locality and the object of development, while development is the cause of environmental changes. Now let us talk about why environment is important than development. Achieving a balance between economic growth and natural resource consumption is critical. Development is worthless without an environment. So we must conserve energy for future generations, and understanding the notion of sustainable development is the only way to do it. There's a close relationship between the environment and development. The environment is the locality and object of the development, while development is the cause of environmental changes. Now, coming to the process of economic development. The process of economic development, due to increasing production capacity, exploitation of mineral resources, many toxic emissions have been discharged into the environment. So many large cities of Vietnam have been polluted heavy, and still more other countries are facing similar problems because of pollution. Socio-economic development is the process of improving people's physical and spiritual living conditions through the production of material wealth, improvement of social relations, and improvement of cultural quality. Development is a common trend of each individual, and the whole human being is the process of living. There's a close relationship between environment and development. The environment is the locality and the object of development, and development is the cause of environmental change. Moving to the next slide, that is, why is environment important than development? So we are just discussing about the preliminary cause, that is environment and development. Achieving a balance between economic growth and natural resource consumption is critical. Development is worthless without an environment. We must conserve energy for future generations, and understanding the notion of sustainable development is the only way to do it. Environment is where we live, while development is what we all do in attempt to improve our lives. People want improvement in their lives, so they want a development. The two are inseparable because development takes place on environment. Nature plays a significant part in sustaining economic activities. It helps directly through the provision of resources and raw substances like timber, water, and minerals which are needed as sources for the production of services and goods, and indirectly by providing ecosystem services such as carbon sequestration and water purification, reducing the risk of flooding and cycle of nutrients. Natural resources form a crucial part, forming the provisioning services for humans. These provisioning services refers to food, water, and irrigation system. Now, the need for sustainable development. Development in the economy aim to boost the production of services and goods to fulfill the needs of a growing number of people, is putting more pressure upon the natural environment. In the early stages of development, the demand for environmental resources was lower than the supply. Today, the world is confronted with an increased demand for natural resources, but their availability is limited by overuse and misuse. Sustainable development is the type of development that helps reduce environmental impacts and fulfills the demands of the current generation without jeopardizing the capacity of the next generation in meeting their requirements. The economy and environment are interdependent and require each other. Therefore, any development that does not consider its impact on the environment can destroy the ecosystem that supports living things. Now, next, I would like to discuss about what was the impact of the energy crisis, which is the topic of me today. First, I have discussed about environment and development, how they are interrelated. Now, how the impact of energy crisis, how the energy crisis will impact the transition to clean energy. That is what is your focus. We need to have clean energy. So let me just talk about the background. The energy crisis has a knock-on effect on the economy, drives up prices for businesses, and reduces the amount of money that consumers have to spend. The gas prices push up energy prices, which leads to extremely high inflation. Now, when I talk about overconsumption, what is overconsumption? The energy crisis is a result of many different strains on our natural resources, not just one. There is a strain on fossil fuels such as oil, gas, and coal due to overconsumption, which then in turn can put a strain on our water and oxygen resources by causing pollution. Any severe blockade in the delivery of energy resources to an economy is referred to as energy crisis. This term is frequently used in economics to refer to the scarcity of energy sources, particularly those sources that provide national electrical grids or are utilized as automobile fuel. The world has been facing an energy crisis with a consistent rise in the oil prices. So all of us know, all over the world is facing energy crisis. Why? Because of consistent rise in the oil prices. It may be because of the war between Russia and Ukraine and other countries. So the global energy crisis is a result of a cascade of issues faced by different countries over the years. The chain of events begins with the pandemic, along with a fall in wholesale energy prices. As COVID-19 impacted the world, gas and electricity use reduced sharply across countries, in contrast to overproduction from oil and gases. Now, what has led to the world energy crisis? In the recent times, the various news of energy crisis has come up in both the developed and the developing nations. Say, for example, coal and power crisis in China, coal crisis in India, fuel crisis in the UK. The reasons for this power crunch are being stated as many by the experts, either because of pandemic, greenflation, geopolitics, and so on. The COVID-19 pandemic reduced the global demand for oil and other energy resources, which in turn limited their production as well. This is also one of the reasons for the energy crisis, because of the pandemic, because of the greenflation, because of geopolitics. So let me just come to that in detail. The sudden demand-based inflation has caused the coal and crude oil prices to double this year, as the companies and countries are racing to meet the high demand. The global scenario has been affected negatively by the supply side crunch and high prices. Now let me just discuss, I want to discuss about the climate change. The heavy rainfall seen in the South and Southeast Asia has made coal mining difficult in countries like India, China. Hence, these countries are facing coal crisis now. In Europe, the colder winter has heightened the energy crisis. The harsh winter conditions adversely affect the gas transport systems in these regions, as most of the gas in Europe is imported. Now let us discuss about greenflation. The world is trying to move towards more sustainable sources of energy, hence driving the demand for still limited energy sources like natural gas has increased, causing massive price rises, causing greenflation. Also, many countries have closed their coal fields due to an environmental concerns piling on to the energy woes. The governments have also placed various restrictions on traditional energy sources, which also add to the greenflation. So these are the different reasons for greenflation. Renewable resources like wind and solar energy require massive infrastructure and investments, which is delaying the output as well. This makes them unreliable for meeting the net energy demand for a long time. Another downside is that renewable energy lacks a storage solution, unlike coal and natural gas. Hence, it is not yet ready to be fully depended upon. Next comes the reason. Next reason is the geopolitics. Geopolitics is also a contributing factor in elevated prices in some regions. For instance, the EU nations suffer from an energy crunch. Russia steps in to help, but this time Russia has not increased the supplies, which may be a tactic to put pressure to expedite the Nord Stream 2 pipeline approval. Geopolitics focuses on political power linked to geographic space and is usually just another way of saying international political relations. But simply, geopolitics refers to political factors that are between countries or regions. For example, politics between US and China, or more recently, Russia and Ukraine. Now, when we come to India, the energy crisis in India, India depends on fossil fuels for almost 70% of its power requirements. But currently, the country's coal stocks are running very low. The major reasons for this energy crisis are the power consumptions in many states like Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Karnataka has risen from 14% to 21%. After the pandemic, putting strain on the production and supply network. The power crisis in China has hiked the demand and the prices of fuel globally. India imports most of its coal from outside, and the supply chain bottlenecks are still not smoothened post-pandemic. So all these problems, pandemic, COVID-19 has a big role for putting down the energy crisis, for bringing heighten the energy crisis. The widening gap between the low cost of electricity and high prices of imported coal. Even after having the fourth largest coal reserves in the world, the local supplies have strained due to drop in investments in fossil fuels to meet climate targets. More companies did not stockpile coal due to the high cost of stockpiling. The government is taking measures on a war footing scale to tackle the crisis by working with state-run organizations to boost the mining and production of coal. According to experts, the winters may help see a drop in the energy demand, stabilizing the situation a bit. Now, what can we think about the future? The world is an energy transition stage where there is bound to be an imbalance in demand and supply throughout. Since most of the consumptive and fast-growing world economies are heavily dependent on thermal energy, it will be rather difficult task to switch to new renewable sources of energy quickly. Thus, it is also imperative that we divide our attentions towards sustainable alternatives, also to achieve better stability in the future and avoid future energy crisis. Necessity is the mother of invention. On these lines, many countries are trying to set the right balance between energy, green energy, and fossil fuel usage. California has installed solar-powered batteries connected to the grid. These batteries help power the grid during the heat wave and store excess energy. So here there is a special facility where you can store excess energy during peak solar hours. These stored energy is dispatched back into the grid after the sunset. The offshore wind energy farm of Denmark was a global first in 1991, but now has been taken up by many countries, including India. Now Denmark is building another global first, an energy island in the North Sea that could eventually be capable of supplying energy to approximately 10 million homes. The move will create a critical boost to the world's offshore wind capacity. The first hub and spoke energy scheme will involve building an island 80 kilometers off to Danish coastline to act as the transition center for hundreds of wind turbines surrounding it. The Green Girds Initiative, the One Sun, One World, One Gird concept introduced by India is also the right step in harnessing and saving energy for the future. So we need to save energy for the future. It is imperative in today's scenario that climate change mitigation and tackling the energy crisis have to go hand in hand, as both are complexly interlinked. The countries need to come up with solutions to control, mitigate, and balance the future with the present. Now, when we talk about the energy crisis, how can we understand the energy crisis and its impact on food security? The world is facing a reckoning when it comes to energy supply. Despite decades of calls to reduce dependency on fossil fuels, countries have persisted on the widespread use of coal, oil, and gas to fuel their economies. Not only has the burning of fossil fuel been responsible for rising carbon emissions that drive global heating, but we have created a globalized world in which food and energy systems are highly concentrated, which makes them extremely vulnerable to disruption. The war in Ukraine, that is another problem, underscores how the lack of diversity in our global energy and food system are working against the resilience of livelihoods. As the price of energy, fertilizer, and food commodities skyrocket, people across the planet are unable to absorb the rising cost. As a result, we see an unprecedented contribution of rising energy prices to food insecurity and humanitarian needs. Our collective failure to promote diverse energy system has forced millions around the world to become dependent on humanitarian assistance to their basic needs for survival. As political negotiations ensue and initiate, respond to unlock the solutions to the current crisis, preventing further aggravation and transforming systems to withstand future shocks requires a forward outlook. Instead, we see countries reacting to energy crisis by reneging on their climate commitments and reverting to fossil fuels. This threatens global cooperation to advance climate action at a time when adherence to such pledges is of vital importance. If we are to keep the 1.5 degrees target of the Paris Agreement within reach and build the resilience on the systems that power and feed us, the diversification of food and energy systems needs to be at the heart of our collective efforts. Such diversification entails transitioning to the use of low carbon and fuel efficient technologies across world systems in pursuit of global targets to achieve net zero emissions by mid-century. In this context, it is imperative to promote the use of energy sources such as solar, hydro, and wind, and to close the gap of energy access in developing countries. Higher energy prices has pushed the 2021 global energy crisis began in the aftermath of COVID-19, as I said before, in 2021, with much of the global facing storages and increased prices in the oil, gas, and electricity markets. The crisis was caused by a variety of economic factors, including the rapid post-pandemic economic rebound that outpaced energy supply and escalated into a widespread global energy crisis following the Russia invasion of Ukraine. So what we can see is we will see an abnormality because of the problems, the political problems that you see. And what are the impact of energy? High energy prices have contributed to painfully high inflations, pushed families into poverty, forced some factories to curtail output or even shut down, and slowed economic growth to the point that some countries are heading towards severe recession. So this is a very important issue. Why? Because it is heading to severe recession. Europe, whose gas supply is uniquely vulnerable because of its historic reliance on Russia, could face gas rationing in this winter, while many emerging economies are seeing sharply higher energy import bills and fuel shortages. Some gas-intensive manufacturing plants in Europe have curtailed output because they cannot afford to keep operating. While in China, some have simply had their power supply cut. In emerging and developing economies, where the share of household budgets spent on energy and food is already large, the higher energy bills have increased extreme affordable energy access. Even in advanced economies, rising prices have impacted vulnerable households and caused significant economic and social political strains. Climate policies have been blamed in some quarters for contributing to the recent run-up in energy prices, but there is no evidence. In fact, a greater supply of clean energy sources and technologies would have protected consumers and mitigated some of the upward pressure on fuel prices. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this platform to present this important topic, which is the need of the hour.